The dragon had been alone for 642 days. That was the number on the digital placard outside. Habitat 9C. Draconis stellaris. Origin unknown. Non-responsive, scheduled for transfer. Inside the enclosure, Ember lay curled like a question mark no one had bothered to answer. Emerald scales dulled to moss, wings folded so tightly the membranes had gone translucent. He breathed in slow, measured cycles, the way a machine conserves power when it knows no one is coming back. Every morning, the same routine. Automated feeders dropped nutrient bricks he ignored. Tourists pressed their faces to the transfer steel, took selfies, and moved on. Pretty lizard, they said. Kind of boring. The children complained. Ember's only movement was the faint shimmer of the metallic band fused around his neck. Symbols no linguist on Earth had ever deciphered, until the day Theodore Gallagher walked past. Theo was 12. Red-haired, quiet, the kind of kid who read the information plaques twice and asked questions that made docents nervous. He stopped dead in front of Habitat 9C. The dragon raised his head. Theo raised his hand, pressed it to the glass. Ember rose slow, deliberate, and crossed the enclosure until his snout touched the transparasteel exactly where Theo's palm rested, for the first time in 642 days. The dragon's eyes were not empty. They were waiting. That night, Theo did not sleep. He sat cross-legged on his hotel bed. Photos from his phone projected onto the wall, zooming, rotating, layering. The symbols on the collar were not static. They shifted depending on angle, distance, even the heartbeat of the observer. By 3:17 a.m., he had it. 4-dimensional communication. Matrix, responsive, adaptive. Arcturus station origin. He stared at the translated text until the words burned behind his eyelids. Stellar Guardian Unit T9 Emergency Response Navigator Return if FOUND Arcturus Station had been destroyed 5 years ago. Everyone lost, except one small dragon drifting in the dark, waiting for someone to read the message written in light and longing. Theo was back at the sanctuary before sunrise. He talked his way past night security with a story about lost medication and the earnest desperation only a 12-year-old can weaponize. Miguel, the maintenance tech, took pity and let him in for 2 minutes. 2 minutes became 20. Theo stood inside the habitat, heart hammering, and spoke the first command phrase he had found buried in an old Arcturus salvage report. Stellar Guardian Unit T9 status check. The caller flared emerald, a voice calm, genderless. Ancient answered inside Theo's skull and through the air at once. Mission interrupted. Primary vessel compromised, awaiting reassignment. Theo's knees buckled. He sat hard on the crystal sand. Ember approached until his head rested in Theo's lap like the world's heaviest. Ormus cat? Hi, Theo whispered. I'm Theo. I think I'm your new partner. The dragon's eyes closed in what could only be relief. The next weeks were chaos wrapped in paperwork. Theo's mother, Dr. Alina Gallagher. Xenobiologists confirmed the translation. Commander Jonathan Perkins retired. Last surviving officer from Arcturus flew in and wept openly when Ember responded to his old authorization codes. The Historical Preservation Act was invoked. The Sentient Species Protection Act was invoked harder. Director. Roses tried to fight it and lost. Ember became the first extraterrestrial minor and human. Custody Theo became the youngest person in history to be granted joint guardianship of a deep space navigator. They built a habitat in the Gallagher's backyard. Climate-controlled, sky-visible, with a heated pool and climbing walls. Ember moved in the day the contractors left. He was cautious at first. Shadows and silence his only companions for 5 years. Theo was patient. Every evening they sat together on the roof. Theo traced constellations with a laser pointer. Ember projected holographic star maps across the night sky, showing routes no human ship had ever taken. Sometimes Ember would rest his chin on Theo's shoulder and hum subsonic. The sound of a creature who had once guided starships through the dark, and now guided a boy through growing up. The first time Ember flew again. It was just before dawn. Theo woke to the soft whoosh of wings and ran outside in his pajamas. Ember circled the house once, twice tentative, testing air he hadn't felt in half a decade. Then shot upward like green fire, looping and diving through the rosy sky until he hovered above Theo. Wings beating slow and triumphant, Theo raised both arms and laughed until he cried. Ember landed gently, folded his wings, and pressed his forehead to Theo's. "Thank you." The caller translated, though Theo no longer needed it to understand. The necklace had begun speaking directly into his mind weeks ago. They became a local legend, kids. Asked for rides, politely declined. Reporters. Asked for interviews, politely declined harder. Scientists. Asked for tests, declined with prejudice. Theo and Ember had better things to do. They mapped every creek and hollow within 50 kilometers. They found lost hikers. They guided fire crews around hidden sinkholes. During a wildfire, they discovered a cave system no survey had ever recorded, full of bioluminescent moss that sang when Ember hummed. 1 year to the day after Theo first pressed his hand to the glass, Commander Perkins arrived with a small wooden box. Inside was a metal Arcturus station's highest honor. Never awarded to a civilian, Perkins pinned it to the harness Theo had made for Ember's soft leather, sky blue with pockets for snacks. Then he saluted crisp, perfect, and stepped back. Ember lowered his head until his brow touched Theo's. Mission complete. The voice in Theo's mind said, "Warm as summer. New mission parameters?" Theo smiled, scratched under Ember's chin the way he liked. "Keep exploring," he said. "Keep choosing kindness. Keep coming home." Ember's wings unfurled, catching the sunset like green fire always. Years later, when people asked Theo how a 12-year-old boy and a lost dragon changed the way humanity saw the stars, he never talked about the science or the politics or the headlines. He just touched the warm place over his heart where a dragon's heartbeat still echoed, and said he was waiting for someone to read the message written on his skin. "I was waiting for someone to trust me with the universe. We found each other. That was enough." And somewhere above, a dragon with eyes like dawn and wings like hope flew circles around the moon, guiding his boy home.